Well, welcome everyone. What a beautiful day. And I'm so glad everyone is with us today for this I know it's going to be a fabulous conversation. I am here with my friend, Dr. Erin Watson. And Erin, welcome today. You look so lovely. So I want to start off, Erin, could you tell me a little bit about why you got into this work of transformation? Just a little bit of what your background is a little bit and why you thought this was an important place to go.
Yes, absolutely. I When my dreams of being a rock star didn't work out, I thought,
Wait,
hey,
you can't say that. What did you do? What did you play? What did you sing?
no, I didn't. I didn't do any of it. I just fantasized that someday. I think that's every. You know what? Now I'm going to go into this philosophical rant. We're not even going to get to the bio because I'm going to say, you know how many young girls grow up in a culture where erasure is all they know. And so all they ever dream about is feeling loved and adored and seen and wanted. And maybe that was my origin story. And we think, well, they're celebrities. I guess that's how you achieve that. I
Mm.
guess that's how you achieve knowing that you matter. And so I took that and then I went, well, that's probably not the realistic pathway, nor the healthy one for who I am as a person. I just don't think I want that or could handle that. Psychology, yes.
Figure out why those people need to be on the stage.
Yeah, so I did actually start out in performing arts. I'm a very artistic person. I'm very creative. I love that that's a part of me. Um, but there was this burning inside of me that knew I was meant to be a a helper of some sort, whether that's a teacher or a guide or a therapist or a coach. And I ended up training as a therapist and I worked clinically for many years. I've morphed into a coaching and educational sort of career path. And I actually do a lot of writing. I have learned about my introversion, my very, very comfortable and severe introversion, where writing is a really nice space for me because I can share ideas and I can share insights and I can connect with people, which I love. Um, and I can do it all in my sweatpants. So, yeah, and it morphed over time because I actually started out in couples work, in family therapy and couples therapy and sexuality and sort of women's pleasure, women's empowerment. And over time, as my life evolved, as I was faced with certain lived experiences, as my interests changed in terms of the work that I did, I found that what I loved most was working with people who were at a bit of a state of like identity,
Mm.
um, crossroads, we'll say, and not just identity crossroads as an am I this or am I this, but rather why are these the options? And why have I been following a set path of what the universe or the world or society or whatever says, do this, do this, do this, be this, and then you'll be happy. And I thought, well, who is directing this? And have you had a say in it? And so I do a lot of work now with individuals who have grown up in situations where development of a self wasn't allowed.
Mm.
Development of self liking, development of self trust, development of knowing and acting on what your own needs and desires are was squashed. Most of my clients have been scapegoated very severely by families or have been stuck in what I call narcissistic system abuse. So they have learned that the only way to sort of take up space in this world is to contort themselves to please and placate others. And you can imagine when if that's all you've ever known, and as a human, your soul is saying, I just want to be seen and loved and heard, that there's going to be a chasm between the two and you're going to struggle to know, who am I, and am I allowed to be me exactly who I am and be okay and know that others are going to cherish that. And so that's how I've sort of ended up in this position now where I coach individuals who have experienced these types of attachment wounds and are trying to redesign, rediscover, reignite their energy, their life, their identity, and their confidence.
Hmm. I love how you explain that. I equate that with a lot of the depression that's going on in the world. I don't know about the world, where I am. People have this low level, constant daily depression that they're dealing with and don't know where that comes from. But I would think that if you're not allowed to be who you are and you're having to wear a mask or put on a show to make everybody else happy, either at work or within your family, you have something inside of you that's not allowed to express. And that's got to be a major, I mean, for myself, I had that. I had to
Mhm.
be a certain person. I had to get married, have children. It was this expectation of what my life was supposed to look like. And I
Yeah.
never questioned it. I never questioned who decided that. You know,
Yeah.
my parents, I don't think my parents did, because my parents did the same darn thing. But who was the originator of, okay, this is how life goes. But if you have this internal struggle of, I want to be this type of person, or I want to show this and express this about myself, and yet I have to fit into the box of what other people expect me to be. I mean, for me, that I now is when I look back and I'm like, well, that's where that depression came from. Yeah. So you help people.
Yeah. You're lagging. I just want to say that. So if I'm missing a few words, please excuse me because it's cutting out a little bit. And that
Hmm,
might be my internet or yours.
I love it.
Um,
Have internet. I know people
Yay!
will get
Technology.
yes, right. And I'm all plugged in, so I don't know where it's happening, but everybody will figure it out. But
We'll
so,
figure it out.
yes. So you help people in that
Yeah.
phase of discovering who they truly are.
Yeah, and it's what you said makes so much sense. So there's this external piece, right? This external metric that we're all using to try and achieve our ultimate goal of genuine joy, fulfillment, wholeness, and connection. I think that's what we're all after. How do we ever achieve that when we don't decide the criteria? When society or capitalism and consumerism and when society is sort of economically predicated upon us feeling crappy about ourselves so that we buy into whatever is being sold, how are we supposed to ground ourselves in our own knowing, to borrow a word from Glennon Doyle's book, our knowingness. And so I often see people who have what they believe is a strong sense of what they want and where they want to go and how they ought to get there, and for some reason they keep spinning their wheels. Like, I know exactly what I want and I know exactly how to do it, and for some reason I I can't. Like, I'm burning out. The harder I work towards this, the harder I work towards recovery, the worse off I'm feeling. And I think it's because those criteria are based on this external metric. They're not based on this inner sense of self. And I call this like the siren values. So, sirens being those creatures that come up out of the ocean and they sing a beautiful and compelling song, and you go, oh, that's it. That's the answer. My savior. Yes. And you go towards them and they go, great. And they suck you under. Right. And that's it. And we go, okay, well, if I get married and if I have the house and then I have the career and I make this much money, and if I work my butt off and I'm super productive and I hustle, 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 and then I will finally feel the thing that supposedly I'm supposed to feel as a human, because I don't feel it now. I just feel empty. I feel anxious and afraid and depressed and tired. And so what we have to do is we have to go, those weren't your values.
Hmm.
Those were the things that society said, hey, if you buy into this, you'll be super happy. And then you go, okay. And then you follow it and they go, we changed the target just a little bit. It's actually over here. Come, 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 come. Okay. Oh my God. Okay. I'm gonna get there. And we need to come back and go, you were taught that in childhood. You were taught that before society intervened, because society had intervened on your parents. And your parents had said, okay, well, here's how you need to be in order to get the love, care, and affection from me. Now, not all parents are like that. I obviously work with people who have a toxic or dysfunctional upbringings. But they learned immediately when they came into this world, don't be yourself. Don't even check in. Don't know yourself. Don't question. Don't look around. Don't seek truth. Don't feel it. But do whatever you need to do to make that person okay so that you can feel safe. And we equate safe with, okay, I guess this is the happiness, joy, fulfillment, wholeness, and connection that is allotted to me. And I'm helping people unlearn all that and reconstruct.
Hmm. It feels so freeing. It feels like I want to take an exhale. Like, oh, I could actually be who I am, who I am. It just, I don't even, there's not even a word for how I feel as you're explaining that. Like, it's just a relaxing and ease of really, I can be who I am inside. I don't,
Imagine what a radical notion in this world. I can be who I am. And you know how silly it is, because it is radical in this world.
yes.
It actually is a very rebellious act to say, nah, I think I'm going to be me.
Yeah.
And for some people, it's freeing because they just, take off the mask. As you said, I'll take off the mask and here I am. But for people who have trauma, and especially that sort of childhood stuff, that stuff that happened before you even had the chance to create or know that self, you're not just taking off a mask and there you are. You're taking off a mask and like the trauma trench coat, and you're looking inside going, oh, there's actually nothing there yet.
Hmm.
I don't want to take that mask off. I don't want to take that trench coat off. I know my trauma because I constructed an entire identity around pleasing others because I didn't have another choice. So for people who have severe trauma, childhood trauma, it can really feel terrifying to question, who am I? Who do I want to be? And where do I want to go? Because that literally, there was no permission for that. There was no origin for that other than that knowingness. And you have to have immense courage to sit in that knowingness to discover that about yourself.
So how do you start? Because I did go through that myself, where I let go of who I thought I was or who I had created myself to be. And I had not had the time to develop incrementally my true self. So then I let go of some trauma things and some masks. And then I was left with, well, I don't even know who to be. Here I am 35, 40 years old. Who am I? I didn't. So how do you start that process? I mean, people would say, well, do what you like to do. And I thought, I don't even know what I like to do. I have no clue because I shoved that down to do what I was supposed to do. And I didn't know how to discover. I mean, do you go back and be like, okay, do I like coloring with the red crayon or the blue crayon? Where do I go?
Yeah. I mean, you raised such a good point. That's exactly it. That's like the nail on the head. I don't even know. And I think there's even a step before that. There's the step of, I don't even know. And then you go back and you go, even if I did know, it's going to bring up a trauma response to even admit it. Because I was constantly, not I necessarily, but speaking in the generalness here, I was constantly, I think some people chastised or punished, and they actually had independence. So they'd say, oh, I think I really want to color with the red crayon. And then someone would say, how dare you? How dare you?
My body, like my body tightened up when you said that.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so you go, okay, I do know that I really like the red crayon, but I now need to get over the message in my head that says coloring with the red crayon makes you a bad person, makes you rejected. The red crayon is gonna risk abandonment. And we go, oh, no, 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 no. I want connection. That's what I want. I want connection. I can change who I am a little bit if I need to, so I could get connection. That's fine. So there's that point there where you have to go back even before the question of what do I want and what do I like. You have to start with, is it safe to even ask myself those questions? And what comes up for me when I start to even explore my own self? What are those triggers that say, don't be joyful, joy is dangerous, you're going to get punished for joy, don't have an identity, don't have independence? And we have to learn to sit with those difficult, experiences and talk back to them in a way. I actually use a process where we talk back to these messages, and this is a process developed by Heather Morgan, and it's a values-based integration process where you can actually use your own metrics to talk back to the messages that are keeping you locked in sort of a formulaic or system of pleasing others and pleasing society and wearing a mask. Yeah, I talk so much.
Oh, I love it. It's so, now I'm here to talk to you, not to talk to you, but I'm here to have you talk to us. So I love that. So explain that a little bit. I mean, you don't have to go into the whole process of it, but it's a conversation that you're having in your head of if some message comes up and then I talk to it. Is that what's going on? Like that, I
It's
see myself having this argument in my head.
Oh, I know, and we can go down rabbit holes when you do things like that. No, it's a guided process. So it's one-to-one with the trained practitioner that you're working with. And if you go to Heather Morgan's website, www.poweredbylove.ca, she explains it beautifully, the actual protocol. But it's an act of witnessing, and part of the process is when you're doing it one-on-one, you're not just having a person have a conversation back to a difficult message, you're having someone witness the actual experience of going back into your embodied self. So someone who can say, oh, I can see there where the spiral is starting, or I can see where the rabbit hole is starting to happen. I can see those moments where you said earlier, like, I just took a deep breath. I just feel relief. I just feel freedom. Those are the moments where we're embodied. Those are the full body yeses, where we have that resounding yes. This is right for me, not the tight, I should do this in order to. And so it's a process of having someone help you even recognize those experiences in your body. Because I think if you asked anyone, what are your values? Well, they would say, well, trust, connection, honesty, truth. What does that mean? We take the ones that are kind of handed to us. And they go, well, what does that mean? How do you define that? Where is that in your body? And go,
What does that mean? What my
it
response?
doesn't,
What do you mean
yeah,
in
it
my
doesn't resonate. Yeah. It's something we latch onto, but we don't actually know how to feel or access, because those aren't our values. So part of the process as well is helping people discover their actual values, their actual metrics. What makes them truly come alive? When were they most unmasked, uncensored, fully alive? And using those experiences to create the rubric, if you will, I'm an academic, the rubric of how to move forward towards your actual goals, so that you don't end up over here going, oh, I'm going to backtrack a lot.
Yeah. Wow. To find out who you really are is so important. I mean, it's your life. This is my life. Who am I?
Yeah.
And if I don't know who I am, I'm living a life for everybody else. And yeah, and that'll be a regret on my deathbed of I wish I would have lived for me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's grief is so palpable too, right? I mean, we end up in the middle ages of our life, right? And most of my clients are as well. I mean, we're 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s even, saying, I wasted all that time and I don't know how much time I have left. And it's a huge loss, but it's not a loss that we recognize in society. It's a very complex type of grief where the loss of an identity, the loss of a dream, the loss of a self, there's no closure there. There's no, oh, you mourn it and then, move on. There's no support group for people who didn't become rock stars. Like, and society kind of looks at you like, I don't want you recognizing that you didn't live your own life. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's very dangerous. So you become very vulnerable in those moments when you acknowledge that you spent your entire life not living your life. The armor is off, and then you're going into battle without armor. And the battle is to assert yourself. The battle is to say, no, no more. No more living someone else's life. But it feels raw and agonizing and painful. And, before we started recording here, we were talking earlier about just the feeling of love. And it's like this beautiful agony, right? That's the experience of being so fully alive and present in something based only on what you want, you feel, and what your body knows it needs, bumping up against a society that says, no, I'm too old, or they're too young, or they're too old, or I'm not this, or I'm too that, or I'm not enough. And what if we let that go? And I know that sounds, oh, what if we let that go? And everyone's saying, okay, yeah, great. How? How do we let that go?
Right.
And that's the work. That's
Yeah.
the work of peeling off the band-aids and the armor and all the things we use to scaffold up ourselves and taking it apart bit by bit, like literally taking the scaffolding off a house, only to realize that the house is not fully there yet.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
that's the beauty, because then you go, oh, great. The house actually isn't there. I don't have to live with yellow siding if I wanted blue.
Right.
Amazing. Let's design my perfect house. And
Yeah.
what does that look like? Because it's the house that you live in, literally metaphorically.
Yes.
This is your life and you're going to live in it. So how do you want to design it?
And you mentioned being in your 40s, 50s, 60s. I want to make a point that there's not a time where you're too old to make these adjustments in your life. Because I've run into people like, oh, I've been this way forever. I'm 65, I'm 70. It's too late. But what if you live another 20 years?
Yeah.
And are you going to really choose to live those next 20 years still in the same situation you've grown up in with that frustration for those next 20 years? I mean, we could live till we're 100, whatever. So
Yeah.
there is no age where you just say, forget it. Wherever you start, wherever you are, begin. And you may not get there, whatever there is, but you'll gradually have the freedom, small little freedoms that are going to feel so like you've been let out of a bird cage and you
That's
get to fly
exactly it.
finally. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many things you said there that are so great. I mean, one, you're absolutely right about the cage. And I know my clients often feel like, I'm great, I'm out of the cage, but now I'm in like a barren wasteland and I don't know who I am and I don't know where my anchor is. But it's like, you're right, you're right, you're right. There's absolutely truth in that. It is scary when you leave behind the shackles that were holding you down. You're free, but you're also probably leaving alone and letting go of everything that you constructed your identity around. Because none of those things were healthy for you or good for you or truly made you feel alive. So there is like that, like, ooh, moment, right? Like, maybe I want to go back. That was safer and easier. And I'm totally going to forget everything else you said now. But, oh, I did already forget everything. Welcome to, I'm neurodivergent. Welcome to my brain. It gets very excited and then it goes somewhere.
Okay, go. So it was just about age and not, not letting your age.
Yes, you're so right. And you could live 20 more years, you could live 20 more minutes, but wouldn't it be amazing if those 20 minutes felt like genuine aliveness? Because every person deserves the experience of genuine aliveness. If you get it for 20 years, that's amazing. But you still deserve it, even if you get it for 5 minutes. And especially if you're still in a toxic situation, especially if you're in the throes of trauma, you are still entitled to the 5 minutes of aliveness before the trauma monsters set back in.
Yes.
And someday it'll be 7 minutes, and someday it'll be 20. I think you said something really important about what if we don't ever get to that place? And I think that's key. What are we trying to get to? That's the siren. The siren saying, get here, get here, get here. And so what we're doing is we're going, okay, once I get there, my life begins. And that's when you're on your deathbed. Okay, great. I did all the things. I'm here. Now, well, so how do we learn that the outcome is not the goal? How do we learn that the process of achieving our goals is in and of itself life? It's not that we want a certain career and we work towards it. How do we feel as we're working towards it? Do we hate every second of it as we're trying to achieve it? It's probably not the career for you. And I don't think we allow ourselves that reflection. And maybe that's the real trauma that we're all experiencing, is that we live in a world that either eschews or actively opposes genuine self-reflection. Because self-reflection is the house of empowerment. You cannot experience empowerment without self-reflection. You can experience power, but it's power over people. It's not a power within. It's not coming from you. And that's not the same thing. Empowerment comes with you. And empowerment doesn't necessarily mean you have any sort of tangible social power or clout, but it means that you're standing in a space where you radiate from the inside out an aliveness and a knowing, unquestionable truth about yourself. And that's what people are trying to get towards, that thing. That's what I want. That's where connection happens. That's where love happens. That's where aliveness is. And that's empowerment.
So years ago, when somebody mentioned, well, do inner reflection, look at yourself and, turn inward, was what I heard a lot. I'm like, what? How do you do that? Can you explain a little bit about that process? What does that look like? Because if I would say that to someone and they haven't been doing work to feel what that feels like, or to have a little insight come out for them, most people don't know how to turn inward and look at, what does this mean for me? Or what do I even feel about this? Can you explain what that is, what that process is like a little bit?
Yes, and I will disappoint you with my answer, because there isn't a process. I think when people come to coaching or therapy or the healer circles, we are looking for the ABC. And now, again, there are methods that everybody uses that help sort of scaffold some of this stuff. The values-based process, there is an ABC, but only to the extent that then the person is also just in this own space of, like, again, how am I experiencing this ABC? And is this the right ABC for me? Right? So, I was in therapy for 20 or so years. I was excellent at therapy. I knew therapy inside and out. I could go to my therapist and I could talk the whole session. They would be like, okay, well, you problem analysis. Okay. Like I would just do the whole process. And I thought that in my head, if I was intellectualizing, if I was analyzing, if I was reflecting on this is why I do this, and it was originated in this, and this is why then this happens, then I figured it out. I self reflected to the point where I was so self aware, it was painful. And I still was in no way, shape, or form in my body. I was not embodied in any way, and I didn't feel aliveness at all.
Mm.
And I had to realize that self-reflection doesn't just mean knowing yourself. It doesn't just mean sitting in mindfulness and waiting for answers to come. Works for some, doesn't work for others. It's also a process of taking up space. I've started doing some somatic work, which is to say, sometimes I sit in a room and my somatic practitioner looks at me and says, "What's coming up?" And I go, "I like that pink rug." And she's like, "You like that pink rug?" And I'm like, "Oh, what are we doing right now?" And it feels amazing because I just said, "I like that pink rug. And that's what I'm noticing in this moment." And she witnesses it and goes, "That's what you're noticing. And you like it." I'm like, "Yeah. Oh, is that allowed? I'm allowed to notice that and like that. And you just witness that. And that's wow." It can be profound in those simple moments where with for example, the values-based integration process, sometimes it's not when a client gets to the point where they go, "Oh my goodness, that's my value. That makes sense. That's who I am." It's the point where the client goes, "I need to move because I'm sitting and my leg is really uncomfortable and I need to sit like this." And I go, "Yes." Because you know what normally we would do as humans? We'd sit and we go, "Oh my God, my leg is in agony, but I can't move. I have to make sure that I'm not awkward and weird in this meeting." And self reflection, self knowing, before you can even get to the place where you say, "I like this, I want this is who I'm going to be," you have to be able to take up space. And that happens in moments where you go, "My leg hurts and I need to adjust." And so that's what I practice a lot with clients too. Do you want to stand up and move around during session? Now, I have a lot of neurodivergent clients, so a lot of autistic clients, a lot of clients with ADHD, and clients with severe complex PTSD, which really presents very similarly to a lot of the neurodivergent experiences. And that's not a clinical opinion. That is not necessarily scientifically based. This is an observation that I have about myself as a neurodivergent person with complex PTSD. But what happens is individuals who occupy those spaces tend to be individuals who heavily mask, who heavily people please, to the point where even when they're in physical pain, do not feel they have permission to take care of themselves. So I would say if there was an ABC, the A, I'm going to make this up as I go, by the way. This is how I work. Sometimes I say really interesting things and people are like, "Wow, that was great. You've thought about that." I'm like, "I made it up right now." Pressure's on. A
There might
is,
just be eight, and then we're done. However it goes.
yeah, we'll just see. There might not end up being a C, or might just be A. Okay, so A is going to be basic self-care. Are you in physical pain and do you need to adjust? Are you thirsty? Drink something, water, juice, whatever. Are you hungry? Eat. Are you cold? Can you put something on to help you feel more comfortable? It's really noticing the sensory body, honoring the body. It needs nourishment, it needs sleep, It needs shoes, showers, socks, whatever. It's basic. But I would say 99% of my clients ignore that step and go, well, how do I just work harder to get to that thing? If I just get there and I go, okay, but you've also told yourself you're not worth wearing a sweater when you're freezing. So we're going to start there, right? Because you thought you had to be a certain way to make me feel comfortable. You thought you weren't allowed to get up and walk around in session because you had to please me. That's the origin of taking up space, of self-knowing, of being fully alive, and eventually becoming empowered. Get up and walk around because you are not here to please me. Okay, A sounds pretty good. B is burnout. That was very convenient. B and burnout. Okay. So B is when we now work through all the ways our mask exhausted us. Okay. And the mask does exhaust us. Every effort we make to achieve something because society said so, or someone else needed it, or we're so afraid to upset someone because our whole lives we were abandoned when we weren't perfect for that other person. We are running not just on empty, we are like negative 200. You need to build your energy back up so that you can even do trauma work. We're not even doing trauma work right now. We're not doing any sort of like all of that like become who you are sort of stuff. That doesn't even happen right now. Because if we skip those first steps and we do that stuff, you're going to maybe get to wherever you want it to be, and you're going to collapse as soon as you arrive. There's no aliveness in that. You're depleted and none of it's going to feel like it's worth it. And you're going to start doing things like, I read all the books and I read all the blogs and I've gone to a million therapists and I have 3 different coaches and I've joined this group, and you're not going to do any of the homework either. So you're going to spend a lot of money and you're going to spend a lot of time and you're going to berate yourself. You're going to say something's wrong with me. I'm doing all of this. I'm trying so hard to heal and recover, and I can't do it. I'm too tired and I'm failing. So then we add on that negative message of failure mindset, which is not going to help. And so once you deal with the burnout, once you deal with the I'm allowed to take up space, then you can do C, and I'm going to call C connection. Yes, I love when these things work out. Connection is about reconnecting with self. So you have the energy to do it now, and you know you're allowed to take up space. So now you can ask yourself those questions. What do I like? Do I like the red crayon? Do I like the blue crayon? Do I want to go eat at the Keg, or is that vegan place down the street really my jam? How do I connect with others? And in what ways? Do I continue to ask the question of, do they like me? Or do I sit back and go, do I like them? Am I wanting to hang out with them? Do I feel this new relationship energy and euphoria because, you know, I really desperately want to make sure that I'm loved? Or do I enjoy going on a date with this person? Am I fully myself? So when you are in connection, you can connect the pieces between who you actually feel like you are, what makes you feel good, what's a resounding yes in the body, and the types of people you want to share those experiences with, or when you don't want to share those experiences. And that's that space of being unapologetic. And you know what is going to happen when you're in that space? You're a great listener, by the way. You're going to lose a lot of people. And so a lot of people struggle when they get to that space. They go, oh, the mask is off, the trench coat is off, I'm taking up space. And there everyone goes. And so I'm going to give you a bonus C, and that's compatibility. And a lot of clients, especially the ones I work with who have been, you know, severely abused by narcissism and scapegoating, keep themselves small in order to connect with others, because they're afraid if I become big and I take up space, everyone's going to leave. And I have to be honest, they're going to leave because those people were not compatible with you. If you have to go down here to be compatible, they're never going to fulfill you. You're never going to feel actual connection and aliveness. You have to be big. You have to take up the space up here where your, I don't know, vibration happens, whatever. And then the people that are also up here are going to go, there she is. There they are. There he is. I have been waiting for you this whole time. And you kept hanging out in the back room. Why? I see you. We connect. We are compatible. So yeah, you're going to lose a lot of people, but you're finally going to connect with the people who see you. And maybe this is where it comes full circle, because I'm not going to pretend like external validation has no place in this. But when you are seen by people who actually see you and not people who are committed to keeping you small for their benefit, then you're going to see yourself truly through the eyes of others who are loving. And that changes everything, because you're reflected back through a lens that is honest, that is you, that is celebrating your essence, and not through a lens that says you're still not good enough, work harder.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
goodness.
No, I love that. I love your ABC that we actually got a bonus C, but just and what I would love people to know is that you do survive the time when you lose the friends that you thought were friends, but they're friends with who you're not really, at the truth of you. And you lose them, and they don't all fall away at once. I mean, you're not going to be like, it's not going to be barren land all in one day. But that happened with me, and I noticed it happening, but I really noticed in myself that I didn't have to fake something when I went out with them. I was fake with them, or I would do things that I would go out and drink beers when I really don't like beer, but I wanted that companionship. And so when those people fell away, it was like, oh, okay, I actually like wine, or I like to drink kombucha
Ah,
myself. And there was a period of several months where I was at home and I was discovering things I like to do at home because I didn't have people to go out with because I had lost friends. But
yeah.
the friends that I gained were so much more in alignment. And when I drank a kombucha, I didn't get teased for it. Or, like, yeah, I can do this. And you really still like me because I'm just being me. And it was
Yeah.
so much more pleasant and flowed with the newer friends that I have. And I know that as I grow, those people might fall away too, but they come, the people that are aligned with who you're being will come into your life because they will be drawn to you. So, but there was that part, and like you said, I want to be honest, there's that part where if people fall away, new ones come, they do come. And
Absolutely. Absolutely. I call this moment the productive pause, where we do stop fighting and forcing our way towards something. We don't try and make that friendship work or that relationship work. We don't try and get our family to want us and include us and accept us. And for some of my clients, it does happen like this. They are ejected from their families completely. They lose all their friends and they lose all their family in like a day. And it's like, whoa, there's that stark moment. That's severe scapegoating, but it happens to some people. And so you enter this space of letting go, but I call it a productive pause, because you're not just like hanging in the ether, like, oh my goodness, I'm an amoeba floating around with no tether. You're productively taking stock. Everything else got blown to bits. And that way you can look down and go, great, what bits do I want to bring back to build something? So it's a really important time in your life, actually, when things fall apart. Things falling apart is a beautiful, beautiful resurrection for people. And so I would say don't fear the time that you're in the cocoon, be in the cocoon intentionally, because you're just emerging right now and you have control over how you emerge. And I think when we talk about trauma, I know you know, with this summit where it's like from trauma to empowerment, and what is this bridge in between? And one of the steps I didn't mention in my ABC because I made it up on the spot, was the survival mode that we get stuck in. So when you have trauma and you want to go to this place of aliveness and this place of empowerment, it also means you have to unlearn your literal survival strategies. And so many of us have lived for decades in fight, flight, freeze, and for my clients, a lot of fawning, so people pleasing and forcing things to work, forcing the mask on, forcing an identity that isn't us. And so we have to learn how to step out of those survival spaces, which is very scary, right? Going into battle without our armor. So that we can take up new spaces in the world, new spaces that are more aligned with us. And I do, so I will give this to you so you can post it with my bio. I do have like a little free guide. So it's the 5 ways that we get stuck in survival mode when we have trauma like this. So the messages that we tell ourselves and how we actually keep perpetuating this stuckness, even when we're trying to recover. We think we're taking recovery steps, and actually we're just perpetuating this sort of hamster wheel of healing and not getting anywhere. So if you feel like you are on that path and you're like, this is a hamster wheel and I've been doing this for decades and I am still stuck, what is happening? I do have a free guide to help you work through and get out of those 5 survival places. So fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and force. I don't understand technology, so I'm going to give it to you, Diane. And you're going to figure out all that.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels, the way that you talk about it, it feels like such a gentle process. And I love that. It's not, I mean, to go from trauma to empowerment, it can be a gentle thing. It should be, it is,
Yeah.
as long as you take it as that and don't beat yourself up and you're compassionate with yourself. And I
Yes.
love how you talk about it, that it's a beautiful space of
Yeah.
rediscovering who we
Ah,
are. Let's be gentle with. I mean, when babies are babies, they get to play and goof off and make mistakes and discover who they are. And we
yes.
same approach to ourselves. Just be real gentle with ourselves and find our way through it and make mistakes. So what? This is our life. I
Oh,
get to make mistakes. And
yeah, we have to.
yeah,
Yeah, you're right. It is a gentle process. I know a lot of people when they show up for coaching or they show up for therapy, they don't want to put it all on the table because they think they're going to be ripped out of their suit of armor. And that's not it. The work that I do in particular, it's about getting people to a place where everything around them feels like safety and love again, so that the armor feels like agony. I want this off. And every time I take a piece of it off, I breathe more. Your life starts to unfold in a harmonious, though not easy. I'm not saying easy, it's work, but it's work that you're aching to do. And so it becomes this like generative, joyful experience. And again, we come back to this like goal versus process. If you go to therapy or you go to coaching and your focus is on the goal and the process of getting there is agony, you're not doing the right work for you. It might be the right work for someone else, but the ABC is not working for you. You have to feel like on the process, you're in charge and you're being seen and you're being held and you're being witnessed, so that when you're taking it off, you feel like you're in control and you're feeling joyful about it. And it really can be like that. Trauma is a part of all of us. I don't think there's a single human in the world that is not going to have some form of trauma. For some of us it's really big and it's really debilitating, and for some of us it's not so debilitating, and that's fine. but we all have it. The goal is to not leave our trauma behind. The goal is to make beautiful friends with it and say, I love you, you matter, and I'm going to scoop you up and I'm going to take you with me, and I'm not going to be afraid of you, and I'm not going to tell myself that you're a problem, and I'm not going to feel like I'm bad or wrong because you exist. Trauma is okay. We all have trauma, and we all have the capacity for genuine joy, fulfillment, wholeness, and connection. All of us.
Yes, that's beautiful. I know when you talked about letting the armor off, I just recently realized something about myself of why I was doing something. And it was related back to something that happened in my childhood. Nothing bad. It was just something I misinterpreted. But I let that go. And it felt, I could physically feel like I felt physically lighter because I had been carrying around this should of how I should be and how I should act. And when I realized where that came from, I was like, it was a weird thing how, oh, I don't need to do that anymore. It was like a light bulb went on and it really felt physically lighter. And I know my posture was better because
Oh,
you
yeah.
that what you carry literally can make you smaller or shrink or make your shoulders round in. And so it's a beautiful process to discover those things. And I didn't sit and cry for days that I had this realization. It was like, oh, okay. So some of it will make you cry. Some of it will make you stay home and eat ice cream. Some, but some of it does come along as like, okay, I don't need to do that anymore. And it is, so there's varying ways that it shows up for you, but it is a beautiful thing I mean, that was just a beautiful thing for me to realize that. And I'm like, oh, and it took me so many years, but it all happens when it's supposed to happen. I know that it happens when I was ready to release it. And it does feel so freeing. And just that one little thing, I mean, I didn't walk around like, oh, I'm superwoman now, but I did feel more empowered. And that's the empowerment that this summit is about, is I don't need to be that. I can be who I am. And that's what I want women and men to realize. I can be who I am. I'm past 18. I don't have to listen to parents. I don't have to listen to teachers. I am and decide who I am. And I'm free to do that. And the word is empowering. It's empowering for me. And I make different choices because I let go of that for my future.
You did. I call it the invisible backpack. And
Yes.
everything that happens in our life that is sort of like stressful or painful or difficult or anything that we don't have the emotional tools in that moment to work through, we pick it up, we put it in our backpack, and we carry these backpacks full of these huge boulders and stones and rocks around with us our whole lives. And so then we go into these spaces where we go, I need to take this backpack off, and it means I got to open it up and I'm going to look in it and I got to address that thing because now I have the tools and now I have the skills. So I got to take that rock out and feel it. Oh, I have to feel it. And so you have to feel through the full life cycle of that emotion. And you're right. Sometimes it just kind of goes, whoop, and sometimes it's agony. But it's hopefully agony in a space where you're being witnessed, by someone loving. But you're absolutely right. You take it off and your posture changes, your breathing changes. You feel fuller, like you're breathing into the full expanse of who you are. And when you know that feeling, it's hard to go back. You go, oh yeah, this is the full body. Yes. Okay. Now I can use that as a metric to make decisions about some other things in my life that maybe I want to let go of, or I'm going to hold on to, or, though I would argue, this is totally an aside, 18 or under, you don't have to listen. You don't have to listen to your teachers or your parents. If you know that something is off, you know. And that's just it. Who's the authority in your life? Let's start teaching boys, girls, non-binary, genderqueer individuals right from the get-go. You're the authority. If something doesn't feel right, don't put the mask on and pretend it does. because this is what this is the trauma. These are the little traumas that we all pick up. The tiny ones that nobody would recognize as a trauma, but somehow over time became, I can't take up space, and what I perceive to be true, I have to squash down and pretend is wrong. And that's the origin of why we're all in a mask.
Yeah. I love the taking up space, the permission to take up space. That I like the pink carpet. I love that, the pink carpet. I actually have in my house, I mean, the red crayon, blue crayon thing is very real for me. I have a red crayon sitting on the counter where my TV is, because to remind me, you can color with the red crayon. For me, in a very young grade, I don't remember what it was. I had a teacher who didn't like us coloring with red crayons. She said it was so harsh that we all like didn't color with red crayons. It was crazy. And I wanted red, so I didn't ever wear red clothes. It was weird how that impression on me. And so yeah, I have a red crayon on my counter, but I'm sure everybody has one of those little things that they've been told, don't do this, don't use this, don't something. And I invite people to bring that don't thing, whatever that don't was, bring that back out and I mean, for a while it was just sitting on my counter. And then I started, instead of writing notes with a pen, I wrote them with a red crayon. Like I had to give myself permission. It's okay to use the red crayon. And it sounds so bizarre to me now because I'm not, 5 or 6, but it sounds bizarre, but I've embraced the red and I wear more red clothes. And I actually bought a red chair, like to say it's okay. And that's just that little, how it affected my life, red, and but I invite people to bring that thing that they were told not to do, or that they couldn't do, or that it was shameful or not, not acceptable. Just have something that represents that and put it in your house. Welcome it into your space. And get used to it being in your space before. You don't have to use it, but let it be in your space. Get used to it being there and welcome it in, and then gradually bring it more and more. And I think that really helped me to reveal parts about myself, other parts that didn't have anything to do with red, to step into who I am was real important. But yeah, it's funny when people mention crayons, I think, oh, I can't use a red crayon, but now I do. So
That's going to be the takeaway from this whole video, is everything you just said there. I mean, that sums it up, honestly. Find that thing that was a don't, reclaim it, bring it back in. That's part of knowing. You have just done brick number 1 on the pathway towards who am I and what do I want and how can I fully express that. That's amazing. Once you start with the red crayon and it gives you that full body yes, you look around, you're like, also the teacup. I don't know what the teacup's going to mean for you. The teacup. And now you have a teacup on your path. And you work your way up. And at the end of it, you have this full taxonomy of knowingness of who you are. And it's not, I am a mom, or I am a teacher, or no, those are just things that you do that might be temporary. Who's your soul? And your soul is red crayon right now, whatever that means for you, because you get to define it, right? You define it with your own words, your own feelings, your own language, but you know the feeling.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It was all about the feeling that the red crayon gave. It didn't have anything to do with the red crayon. It was what I got to express of myself using the tool of the red crayon. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
want to hang a red crayon in my house just symbolically now. And I'm going to think very hard, what was my don't thing and how can I represent that? And there might be like 12 don't things. I don't know. But I'm going to find one and I'm going to bring it back in.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot. I have a lot of different things, but Erin, you are so wonderful to listen. You just warm my heart listening to you.
Oh, likewise.
So lovely. I want to continue this for hours and hours because I could sit, but I know you said your daughter is sick, so I want to let you go back to her.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate you sharing your time with us. Is there anything, any final words, or is there anything you can share with anybody? Like, I'm putting you on the spot now again, but I love that you come up with things. Any final thing that you'd like to say besides have a great day?
They're not all gold. Sometimes I need to know when to quit. Um, I don't think I have any sort of epiphany at the end of this. I think this is actually a space for people to press pause on the video and sink into themselves and go, what is my epiphany from this? What's the one thing that I want to take away from it right now? Don't try and take all of it. Pick one thing that resonated with you. What was the full body yes for you from this particular video? And take 5 minutes to sit with it and know it and experience it and explore it. And how does it feel? And decide if you want to keep it or reject it. And if you reject everything in this video, that's cool too, because you took up space and decided what was right for you. That's amazing.
And you get
Yeah.
to choose. It's your life. You
Yes.
yes.
Choice is the antidote to trauma. Trauma was the result of not having choice in who you are, in how you experienced, how you expressed, and how you lived life and took up space. Choice is the antidote.
And take up more space or not if you don't want to, but you can. It's there.
If you like being me a little hermit with your little book in a little corner, yes.
That actually for me is taking up space because I'm doing exactly what I want. Get a big quilt around me and a book and a cup of tea, and I get real small with a good book. Yes, that's my taking up space a lot of times. So,
Yeah,
Erin, thank you
completely
so
agree.
much. How can people reach you? Where can they find you? I know you're on Instagram.
I am sporadically on Instagram at Dr. Erin Watson. I have a website that I need to work on, which is drerinwatson.com. You're learning very quickly I'm quite awful at technology. I have no idea how clients even find me. I don't even think I have a contact form. Brutal. So website, I have some articles on Medium that you can read, and I will say I'm trying to get better at this. I will be starting a YouTube channel soon. So if you join my newsletter, oh, there's something you can do. Join my newsletter. I do deep dives into all things sort of injustice, betrayal, trauma, scapegoating, narcissistic abuse, trauma and burnout, attachment wounding, and how you take those spaces, reclaim them into identity, confidence, energy, wholeness, and aliveness. And I really do. I spend a lot of time on my newsletter. So join that. You can sign up via my Instagram. There's a link in the bio. And from there, you'll get a first announcement on when my YouTube channel is starting up. So then you get to sit with me doing things like this and making up more stuff on the spot, probably. Luckily, I have eons of education and clinical training backing some of this information and lived experience as well. But hey, not all of it's gold. Some of it is. You get to decide.
And the smallest thing can be the biggest gold. I know. Somebody can say the smallest little offhanded comment that they weren't really, didn't put a lot of thought into, but something resonated with me and it turned into gold. So you had a lot of gold in this for me. I really enjoyed, I'm losing my voice. When I speak my truth, I lose my voice. I notice that. That's something that happens with me.
Interesting.
But I loved our conversation and I really appreciate you taking the time with us. And I'm sure everyone got lots and lots of gold out of it, but they can choose what they got.
They can choose.
Love it. Choice is good. Choice is gold.
Choice is gold. There you go. You are the expert in your life, not me, not Diane. You are the expert in your own life. We're just going to say some stuff and you get to choose what your gold is. Absolutely right.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Erin.
Thank you.
Dr. Watson. Thank you so much. This is so wonderful. I really appreciate it. You have a wonderful day. And we'll talk.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks everybody for joining us. Bye.
Take care.